is.
All right.
All right, we're ready to go, Mark. Thank you for hopping on Disorganized Productions podcast. My new guest is a special one. He doesn't need any introducement. Ladies and gentlemen, today I have a nice conversation with Mark Sargent.
Thanks very much for having me, Rob. A pleasure to be here. I have not done, I don't know if I've ever, no, that's not true. I've done some university things for students in the Netherlands.
Wow.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
what kind of university was that? You remember?
Dude, I probably couldn't pronounce it even if I did have it up in front of me. But it's weird. What happened was when Behind the Curve, when that Netflix documentary came out, it went everywhere, and it was dubbed in a bunch of different languages, and it was, of course, translated in a bunch of different languages. And because of that, it gave students the ability, like, there's a lot of classes now that it's required viewing, like in certain science classes for like alternative thinking. They'll do a week on alternative thinking. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, here's a Netflix documentary because there's no profanity in it, there's no nudity, it might as well be rated G.
Uh-huh.
And students will watch it, and then when they say, okay, we'd like you to do a project on alternative thinking, they'll be like, oh, I want to talk to one of these flat earthers. And so I get calls from different universities and high schools in different parts of the world. It's great.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it brings a lot of attention, isn't it?
It
It's a
it
subject
did.
that
Even the, well, come on, it's polarizing. And from a science standpoint, if you're in a science class, it doesn't get more interesting than that. I mean,
hmm,
science is pretty dry. And so when people say, "Oh, let's look at alternative thinking," well, who's the most alternative out there? Oh, flat earthers.
yeah,
Absolutely. It goes against the bedrocks of science. Everything in science boils down to the globe. And
yeah.
and so we're like, nah, there's no globe. It's just you're in a sound stage, it's Shakespeare. All the world's a stage. You're on it. It was built. They in fact, again, the premise for those people that are listening is that even our best and brightest didn't figure it out till almost 1960,
Hmm,
right? You didn't even know for sure because we didn't have the tech we didn't have decent pressurized aircraft or rockets or anything until about 1960. So the question is, if you find out that the world is indeed like a snow globe, right? And you find out in 1960, do you all of a sudden, hit the newspapers and tell people, no,
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 civilization's already been built. You can't tell people, just come out and say it.
no.
So it's like, no, let's keep a lid on this for as long as possible until we
Yeah.
can figure out a way to use it to our advantage. Because, information is the highest form of currency.
Hmm.
And so yeah, so when we figured it out back in 2015, we just started hitting the internet with it as fast as possible. And here we are, 8 years later,
Yeah.
getting
But
bigger
but
and bigger.
nothing to be found now. You really have to dig deep into YouTube to find all the
Oh,
stuff that
good.
I saw
Yeah,
in
yeah.
2015 and 16.
Yeah, once they figured out how to shadow ban people and drop, they figured out in the algorithms to drop the real stuff, the real good stuff deep into the thing, to where when you're running into, I mean, come on, when you're searching for flat earth, you run into, mainstream people
Hmm.
or big podcasters or big, verified YouTube channels, and you'll run into Joe Rogan stuff and Logan Paul's stuff and Jimmy Kimmel
Oh,
stuff and
yeah.
late night television. You'll run into that first. So we now have told people, it's like, okay, if you like when you're looking for me, don't ever look for my YouTube channel. Just type in um like Flat Earth Mark. I don't even endorse any of my stuff. I just say, just type in Flat Earth Mark, you'll find me
Well,
eventually.
the
But
good
but
thing
if you type
is,
in what
I I put it in your name today at YouTube, and you know what popped up? Your new
what
podcast from behind the what was it? Let me see.
Strange World?
Yeah, it was uploaded 1 day ago. I was just listening to it.
Was it an interview?
No, Strange World 440. Let it begin.
Ah, yeah, let it begin. The brand new year. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's 2 days ago now that
Yep.
it's been 2 days ago that it's been uploaded. So I found that directly because probably they haven't run it through the computers yet.
Well,
So,
no. You can type in flat Earth Mark all day long, but if you just type in flat Earth, right,
oh no,
you
nothing
will
shows.
never find like you'll be lucky if you find any of the speakers. We did our big conference in Vegas just a few months ago, and
Flattoberfest.
you'll the what?
Flattober?
Yeah, Flattoberfest.
Yeah.
It was so fun, and I was so glad that we got to do it. Because for 3 years, because of the whole pandemic thing, we couldn't do conferences. But not only could we not travel internationally, but you couldn't even do venues in the United States. Well, I mean, you could, but like a great example, we were supposed to do Flattoberfest in Vegas back in 2020, and the Vegas places say, "Oh yeah, you can do a conference here, but every one of your people has to wear a mask." And we're like, "Yeah, that's not gonna happen." I go, "Yeah, the closest you're gonna get is people wear masks. They'll get inside the door and they'll put them in a pile and set them on fire. That's about as close as you're gonna get."
Yeah. What
And
about deaf people? They
so what?
can't read lips then.
Yeah, exactly. It's just so it no that no the last 3 years have been a pain in the ass. And I'm glad, but I will say this, our group, the truther community at large, came through mostly unscathed. Almost nobody, like 90% of my community didn't didn't buy it. They're like, nope, no shots, no tests, no masks, nothing, nothing. We're just not going to do it. And the only other 10% that didn't, that had to, they basically had to. They were forced. They were like, and I understood the arguments. It's like, dude, if I don't do this, I will be homeless in 2 months. And it's like you got to weigh the options. It's like, okay, over here I have guaranteed homeless. And on the other side, it's like I'll get a weird reaction. And I'm going, yeah, I got you. I can't make that decision for you.
No.
So for the most part, we're okay.
Mm.
So there, yeah,
Crazy times, isn't it? If you see what happened to the world for the last 5 years,
yeah.
it's really crazy. And everything. Well, sometimes I have a basically conversation with some friends or stuff like that, and we come up with some interesting topics, and they say, "Oh, they will never do that." I said, "Listen to yourself talk. Like what? Didn't we say that last 5 years? Like, oh, they never do that.
They'll never,
There
yeah.
it is.
Now,
There it is.
no, now you can never say never. In fact,
Never
over
again." No.
here, I can't speak of what it's like in the Netherlands, but over here they got so we have Democrats and Republicans. We'll call them red team and blue team.
Mm-hmm.
Blue team, Democrats. They got all of blue team to take the shots, all of them, and maybe 20-30% of red team. So they got 70% of the country.
Wow.
And the red team people were mostly older, and which is, they were the, people older than me, where like people like my parents to
Mm-hmm.
would be that group, which would be, well, if the government recommends it, they probably know more than I do. Therefore, I'm going to do it. The bow to authority thing, which is like, well, come on, it's not like not like they're trying to kill us. Like, oh, really?
No, but not in
No,
plain
no,
sight.
that's silly and ridiculous. But yeah, they got a lot of people. And over the last, at least the last 3 years, yeah, we've been seeing, you've read it. I mean, in fact, I do on Strange World, I do a section. I've been doing this I think at least the last 2 years. I do a section called Lucky Unlucky,
Yeah.
which is I talk about adverse reactions. If you don't die from them, you're lucky, and if you do die, you're unlucky. And it's like, come on, how many blood clots, strokes, heart attacks, how many soccer players have to go down on the field, just drop
Mm.
to
With a
where,
new
and
made
I
up
don't want
disease.
yeah, I don't want to dwell on this too much, but for censorship's sake, but they've normalized heart attacks. And I mean normalized it over here to where, so a guy, it doesn't matter how old you are, 25 years old, soccer player, no body fat, running down the field, just goes straight into the turf, dies, and they're like, it's like, well, it happens. It's like, what? Why, why, why would you say that? It's like, well, it does. It just happens now. And people have, the power of denial is so strong.
Mm.
That's the denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance, 5 forms of acceptance. I watch people, and you'd think it would scare them, when they watch, you know, a 20-year-old or a 30-year-old or whatever. But I mean, I've never, up until recently, you know, watching anyone under the age of 60 just drop for no reason and they're not 300 pounds, that, you know, that should be a big red flag. And people are like,
Yeah.
oh,
And we
anyway.
continue with the morning news with Sarah.
Yeah, they just transition and they mix here. I'll let me read you something really fast. It's just a like it's a mix of terms. They mix them up a little bit. So I'll do them really fast. Medical emergency, player collapsed, player died in sleep, cardiac arrest, brain aneurysm, blood clot, heart stopped, died suddenly and unexpectedly, youth died, youth collapsed, athlete died, and died after a brief illness. They randomize those to or cause of death not given or
They're very creative by saying that somebody died,
yeah,
basically.
or trying, or
Trying.
yeah, or in some cases they just say they don't even bring it up what happened. They just say such and such died. And you know, then and there's, you know, of course there's the turbo cancer, which just drives me insane, which is I know nobody. So anyone that used to be in remission,
Uh-huh.
they aren't anymore. Not even close. I've never known anyone that was in remission that got, you know, the jab that now is, it's like, oh yeah, I feel fine. It's like, no. They're out of remission. You know, the cancer's come back. And it's like, ugh. Anyway. So
Oh, it's
it
frustrating though, right? Because
is frustrating,
when you
but
when you and it's not only about the topics that we're going to discuss today or talk about today, like
right.
conspiracies, but when you when you dig in some of them rabbit holes, it doesn't matter which one, and you for me, I always say it's my plausible truth, right? So when I
Right.
think this is nonsense, I dig into some topics and I think, oh, wait a minute, this is more plausible than what they say.
Right.
If you got these things going with the conspiracies that we're going to talk about, you have to be aware what's the narrative that they talk about and how they
Yeah.
bring the news, and you only can be very skeptic about everything that's put out.
Yeah.
It's not like, okay, I'm completely asleep and they tell something and okay, yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, yeah. Well, didn't you saw the news, Rob? Or didn't you saw the news, Mark?
Yeah.
They've been telling you what the narrative is or what's happened.
Yeah.
Well, that's not the story, right?
No, it rarely is. And let's get into I'm sure you've got a list of conspiracies you want to talk about. Let's transition over because like blue team, they believe everything that the news tells them. There are no conspiracies for blue team. Whatever the news says is absolutely true. And even there's a lot of red team people that don't believe in conspiracies, but there's a lot more red team people that all of a sudden are starting to figure out that's like, yeah, you know, and again, the reason why flat earth has done so well is one of the reasons is it opens your mind up for all the other conspiracies.
Mm.
So because if you can believe that it's like, oh yeah, by the way, all the world's a stage and you're just basically living in a giant studio, then everything else is possible. Then you all of a sudden revisit everything else you possibly questioned over the years. It's like, well, heck, if they lied about that, then they could lie about like you said. It's like, well, they couldn't do, you know, they wouldn't do, you know, lie to us about everything. It's like, sure they would. Sure they
Yeah,
would. I mean, come on. I could spend real quick and then we'll get into whatever you want.
yeah.
Look, it's like I try to tell people, I go, look, so there's nothing, fake news doesn't exist, right? There are no conspiracies in business and politics and sports and entertainment and yeah, even science and journalism. I could spend days on each of those topics and just rattle them off to you. It's like, look, it comes down to everybody's got their own wheelhouse, which
Mhm.
I love. I love opening up wheelhouses because people say, okay, that might be a conspiracy, but this one's too big for me. It's outside their comfort zone. And so when I finally just hit them with the flat earth sledgehammer, you know, just drop it on them like a train.
Just drop it down, yeah.
Yeah, they're like, ah, crap. You know, it's like so everything could be possible, but at the same time, people hold on to it. People have said, "Oh yeah, the moon mission." It's like, yeah, the moon mission was a piece of crap, but you can't tell me the ISS is fake. And it's like, why? And
How?
and it's like, whoa, come on, man, you're hanging on by your fingertips on that one. I
Yeah.
go, why? I go, look, if you're gonna lie, it's the rule of crime, right? Where if you ever the movie Heat from years ago with Robert De Niro and Al Pacino, from
Yeah.
the 90s, where they
Yeah.
shot one of the guards, one of the bank guards, and then they shot the rest of them. And the reason why'd you shoot the rest of them? It's like, what? We're going down for murder, so you might as well shoot them all.
Might
That
as
way
well
we
do it all.
yeah, do it all, because that way, we get rid of the witnesses. It's like, look, either way, the punishment's the same. So if you fake the moon mission, everything's going to be fake. Because if you get caught on the moon mission, you're never going to be able to convince people that any of it's real anyways. So no,
Oh.
everything's fake. Everything's been fake since the beginning, which is why I use, sorry, last thing before you want to, we transition over, which is
Mhm.
the spacesuit, which I love so much. I go, it was one of my big things. I go, look, the easiest way to disprove everything space is the spacesuit. Spacesuit does not work. It cannot work. It defies the law of physics. The
Mhm.
big one, the pressure of a vacuum. There's nothing, I have never even had a scientist come up with a fictional version of what keeps the spacesuit from exploding. And it's like, well, and if the spacesuit is fake, then everything with a spacesuit is fake,
Yeah.
which means it's all fake. And it's been fake since the 1960s. I go, and again, whoever came up with the idea was brilliant, which was over here. I can't compare it to Netherlands too much, but over here in schools, you have certain clubs that are much smaller than others, like band, very, very big, right?
Yeah.
Physics club, really, really small, right? The math club and the physics club, really small, and they're super nerds, right?
Mhm.
So if all of a sudden you realize it's like, yeah, we'll just film it with soft suits on the moon, nobody's in the freaking physics club, they'll buy it. Why will they buy it? And I'll give you the argument where I when I was over in Sweden, when I asked the audience, I go, look, Americans all believe in the moon mission because we're Americans, right?
Yeah.
It's rah rah, wave the
America
flag.
did it.
Even if
So.
we know it's a lie, we're going to believe in it because it makes us look good.
Mhm.
Why do you believe that the Americans went to the moon? And they all say the same thing. It's like, well, because it was on television, it was on your news, and the news would never lie about something like that. And it's like, well, the news may not lie, of course, but the feed they were getting from NASA lied, and the news is just going to say, well, it must be real because it's from NASA. And then the people say, well, it must be real because it's from the news. It's like, oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Anyway,
But
sorry, I rant.
this no, please keep it, please do it. This is disorganized productions, right? I always
That's true.
describe my podcast as skipping branches like a squirrel.
Okay.
And
Okay.
especially with these topics, because so many things are coming up, like what like you said with NASA, there are so many red flags. If you put them on the moon, probably there will be a red moon outside.
Yeah.
Because there's so many things, only from that perspective, if you talk about the fake moon landing.
Yeah.
And I was listening to your podcast that you did with George Hobbs. Shout
Yeah.
out to Flat Earth Files and the Fact Hunter. I was listening to your podcast on Firmamental from our brothers Raul, uh, Claude, and Alex,
Oh, cool.
and of course a lot of different other stuff. And people are trying to debunk us, right?
Sure.
So they say basically we are retards, and that's the only thing that they can come up with.
Yeah.
How do you deal with skeptics?
With skeptics, it's very easy for me. I'll give you a great example. There was a guy in New Zealand who was interviewing me, and he put me out in the hot sun for like 40 minutes, and he was in the shade, and I knew what he was doing. Right, he was trying to get me to slip up, to break character,
Mm-hmm.
and he was swearing at me, and he was insulting me, and he was calling all sorts of stuff. And all of a sudden, he stops. He stops the cameras, and he's like, "All right, look." He goes, I'm trying to get you to snap. You're not doing it. Why? What's the deal? I go, why? Why would I snap? I go, I'd be a hypocrite. I go, look, 5 years ago, I was you, right? If I so I can't get mad at anyone that because look, I was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I when I looked at flat Earth back back in 2014, I thought it was ridiculous. Of course, in fact I looked at every other conspiracy except for flat Earth. That's how bad it was. Right? It's like, no, no, I'll look at Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster and Elvis and everything you can think of. Flat
Yeah.
Earth, no, it's a piece of, and which was why I used that line in the first clue, where I had friends that told me that that the royal family of Britain were made up of lizard people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I go, oh well, you know what? I'm into flat Earth, and they're like, get the hell out of here. I was like, what are you talking about? You just told me about lizard people, right? And you're not even, and you want to kick me out of the room. And so no, dealing with trolls isn't that bad because you just have to remember it's like everybody started out. It's the worst thing about flat Earth is the journey. Once you get to the point where you're in it,
Mm-hmm.
you're in. You're like, oh yeah, I'm in. you forget the pain and suffering it took to get there. And all
Oh
of a
yeah.
sudden, which is why during the holidays, I had to do like public service announcements where I tell people, I go, look, I know you're going to want to sit down at the dinner table with your family, and they're going to say, so Frank, what have you been doing this year? And I know you're going to want to say it. It's like, you know what I'm into now? Flat Earth, right? You're going to want to say that. It's like, no, no, you don't, because
No,
you're
no,
convinced. Now, once you get it, you think it's so simple, it's so easy to understand. You can convince your people, your relatives over pie, right? Over
mm-hmm.
ice cream and pie. You can't. You will
No,
not. It is. You will try and you will fail, and they will laugh at you and they will call you names, and then all of a sudden later they'll be like, "Yeah, I probably shouldn't have brought it up." I'll give you one more really quick.
mm-hmm.
There's
Please do.
there's a solution to this, and that is you lead them into it very, very slowly. So even before they get to the whole retard stage, you saddle up to them and you, like what we were just talking about. You introduce them like to the American space program.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you tell them that, hey, I think hey, what do you think about the American moon mission, right? And all of a sudden, they get all teary-eyed, it's like those brave souls, right? And a single tear, rolls down their face and falls off and turns into a bald eagle and flies away,
Uh-huh.
then you probably don't. You don't want to do it.
No.
There was a pastor that, because there's a huge contingent of biblical people in the flat Earth community. Because if it is a flat Earth, well, then it was built by somebody, and even though it may not have God's official signature on it, it gets you a lot closer to God than normal.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this pastor that did like an 8-week series, once an hour every week at his church. And for the first it was called Biblical Cosmology, and it was brilliant. First 4 weeks, I mean, we're talking 4 weeks. He never even said flat Earth, right? He just
Uh-huh.
talked about biblical cosmology, and you could see he was dancing around the issue and dancing around the issue. And then finally, in week 5,
Uh-huh.
that's when he brought it up. And it was such a nice slow rollout that by the time he got there, he goes, yeah, anyone that stayed to week 5, oh, he goes, by the time I got him to week 8, they were all in, absolutely all in.
Wow.
Nobody walked. But he goes, it took that long to slowly bring them into it. You just can't walk up to somebody and say, hey, what have you been doing? I haven't seen you in 6 years. What have you been doing? Well, I just went to
Taking
a
into
flat Earth
flat Earth
conference.
lately.
Yeah. Although now that we've been doing it for, I've been doing this now for 8 years, going on. In
Mm.
fact, the Flat Earth Clues will be 9 years old in February. Uh, Now at least most of the people out there, because social media has spread it in so many different avenues,
Oh yeah.
that nobody's surprised
Mm.
anymore. It's not like back in 2015 when we said flat Earth, and then all of a sudden people would be like, what are you talking about? Like Stanton Friedman, the old UFO guy that died a couple of years ago. I remember I was doing a debate with him, and he stops after 10 minutes in. He goes, wait. So flat Earth isn't a metaphor for something. We're talking about like it's a literal real thing. And I go, yeah, like it's real. And he goes, well, how does that work? Right? It's like, oh God. He literally thought it was just like a concept, that was just in symbolism. It's like,
Mm.
no,
Mm.
no, no, real thing. Anyway, sorry. So
And
that's how I deal with the trolls, which is it's mostly it's empathy. It's like, look, I can't get mad at you. You can yell and scream all you want. I go, but you're gonna get hell. There was a guy last night, for example. Here's my phone
yeah.
that got blue screened out. There was a guy, it happens because I put my phone number out there. There was a guy that I could tell got into flat Earth for the first time last night at about midnight East Coast time. He must have called my phone 15 times and left probably 6 messages, right?
Okay.
And you could tell, and I know he was half, drunk, right? But I could tell, he was already rattling in his head, and it's like that's all you need to do, is you
Mm.
just give the person the concept, you walk away, you don't press them on it. It's like, why don't you believe? Why don't you understand? You don't do that. You just
No, no,
put it
no.
in their head and let them go on their way, because when it happens, when that ticking time bomb finally goes off in their head,
It's like a seed. It has to
it is.
sprout. One day the sun's gonna shine on it and then sprout. And then it's just
Yeah.
like, hey, wait a minute. Did I plant that?
Yeah,
No.
it took
What
me
kind of tree
nine.
is gonna be there?
Yeah, it took me 9 months, and I was way more stubborn than most people. And to where I woke up, February of 2015, and I'm
Hmm.
sitting at my keyboard just going, "There's no way. there's no way I'm actually considering doing this, right? Actually making a series of videos. Am I actually going to do this? Because this is a terrible idea,
How did you
right?
think? What was your journey to it?
Oh, my
That you.
journey was painful and awful because what I started, because I was a big look, if it could happen to me, that's how I know how powerful it was. It could happen to everybody. Not only was I a huge map guy, my walls were covered in world maps,
Mhm.
satellite imagery, loved world maps. I used to literally collect antique globes. I had antique globe bookends. I used to buy them off eBay and take the spindle off them. I had wonderful displays. I thought the globe was a wonderful icon. And so when I got into it, I like most people, I leaned on NASA. It's
Mhm.
like, well, NASA will show me the way. NASA will dig me out of this hole. And you
Uh-huh.
think you open up the doors to the NASA. See, I got a phone call just now. Nope.
The drunk
God,
guy
I
probably.
think I think it's that same guy. I wonder if he's sobered up. Oh, anyway. So, oh no, I know who that is. That's a guy I'll call later. You open up the doors and you see tons of boxes, metaphorically, marked NASA, right? Huge cardboard boxes everywhere. And it's like, well, this I'll be able to punch through this, and you start opening every box, and they're just nothing but a few pieces of packing popcorn. It's all empty. It's all
Uh-huh.
nothing. There's nothing there
A
to lean
nothing
on,
box.
and it's like what? How is this possible? By the time you're done, you're standing in a bunch of empty cardboard boxes. It's like, but it looks good when you first open the room. It's like, yeah, NASA has all this evidence. NASA has all this proof. And it's like, nope, they were the ones that were set up to protect this thing back in the day. And it was brilliant. All you needed was time and money, a lot of money. But their showmanship, their production value wasn't very good. It didn't stand the test
Mm.
of time. They made huge mistakes right off the bat. I mean, hiring the photography team that supposedly took shots on the moon. Way too good. Yeah, good photography team knew a lot about photography, knew nothing about physics. So they brought in their own studio lighting, which screwed everything up with the shadows. The spacesuits didn't make sense. The ship didn't make sense. Nothing made sense. But the average person, they look at the visuals, it's like, oh, pretty pictures, look at the Americans, but it did not age well. And
No, no.
to where now, and they're scared to death to do it again, which is why they've been dragging their feet on the Artemis SpaceX project as long as possible. Because people forget, it's like, yeah, you realize the last mission, the last manned mission was 1972. That's
That is
generations ago.
that's
And and
unbelievable.
and nobody else has tried. The Russians, the Chinese, the Japanese, the Europeans, none of, and the Indian, the India.
Oh
They
yeah.
never. Nobody's taken a shot at this. Nobody's even tried to do a manned mission on the moon. They're scared to death of doing it. In fact, sorry, last thing on this point, which is people don't understand. I go, it production value now because of social media, we microscope everything.
Hmm.
Every movie is microscoped. If there's a production issue in any movie, we catch it. Right. If
Yeah,
a
yeah.
coffee cup moves from here to here without somebody in the scene doing it, it's like, well, there's a production mistake, right? If you came to me with $100 billion and you said, hey, we need you to fake the moon mission, right? To fake another moon mission, I'd be like, I don't care how much money you have. There's no way you'd catch it all, because it comes down to the weakest link. Some one little production mistake, real quick. You think it doesn't happen? I go, look at the first, this is public record. The first Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring movie, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
When they were leaving the Shire, there's a road off in the background where a white car's driving through it. And that made it all the way to the theaters, right? They had to
Yeah.
pull, they had to like, oh crap, we got to make another
Nobody
print.
saw that one coming.
Well, yeah, because everyone's staring at the stupid hobbits. And then all of a sudden somebody in a theater is like, hey, what's that car doing there? Right. And it's like, you think of the thousands of people, how many versions of that movie made it through production and nobody saw it. None of the
That's
no,
unbelievable.
yeah.
Well, it's the
So
same if you write something down, like one page, you can control it every single time. And when you give it like an essay, and when you give it to your professor or whatever, they say,
right.
what's been written here? Because it makes no sense. And you
Yep.
look at it, it makes no sense. But I
Right.
checked it over and over again, and you don't see it.
Yep.
And I think
Proofreader.
there's a website, right? A Rotten Tomatoes or something like that, where they put in the great stuff that doesn't make sense in movies, like somebody shooting on a window and 5 seconds later the window is still intact.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
movie. Yeah, they're called. Yeah, most of the time. Well, go to moviemistakes.com, and that's just one of many. But there are tons of transition issues that happen in movies, and the reason why it happens is because movies, to save money, are shot out of sequence. They're not
Hmm.
shot in chronological order. So you have a screenplay, and the screenplay reads from point A to point Z. But when you're shooting the movie, it's like, okay, we're going to shoot all the kitchen scenes this week, right?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and it's like that means page 5, page 20, page 40. We're going to shoot all the kitchen scenes today. And then, but then it gets worse because then the movie's done and you're watching it editing. It's like, we need to do some reshoots. So we got to rebuild the kitchen. And the kitchen's already been torn down. So you have to ask the guys, like, we have to rebuild the kitchen again. And do you think they get it 100% right?
No,
No.
100%
No,
not.
they don't. And so it's like,
No.
hey, wasn't there a knife rack over there? Well, not anymore because somebody forgot it. But the average audience person doesn't catch that. So anyway, go
Yeah. Yeah.
circle back to the moon mission to try to create a brand new moon mission and make it look just like Apollo, only better,
Hmm.
and do it live. Nightmare,
Yeah.
absolutely freaking nightmares. So no. Well, look, if you ever watch that, you're a metal guy, obviously. Do you ever watch the wonderful video Rammstein Living in America?
Oh, yep.
Yeah. And the German guys that shot that they knew what they were doing. They recreated the Apollo color palette perfectly. And all they did was they took an abandoned factory, visqueen, blacked out all the windows,
Uh-huh.
put 4 inches of ash on the ground, did the lander, did the spacesuits absolutely perfect, and the color palette was flawless, right? And they did that
Yeah.
for a fraction of what NASA would have spent. And there was a kind of a wink, like they did at the end.
Of
It's
course.
like, no, that
Yes.
was a wink. It's like, oh no, we could fake the moon mission. All we'd have to do is, shoot it with crappy television cameras, and it would look identical to yours.
Yeah.
And
And isn't that
and
unbelievable? Isn't it unbelievable? Is it same with you, Mark, that when you realize that there are some things going on, like the conspiracies, that watching a movie isn't like watching a movie, because most movies I will never watch them again somehow. I used to do, the blockbusters. I like them and action movies, but when I look at the screen now for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, I see so many things that don't. I can't look at them anymore.
yeah, me too. For me, it still comes down to, now I can watch space movies, believe it or not, net still nowadays, but for me, it comes down to the writing. The writing is the most important thing. It's the story.
Mm,
It's got to have a compelling story. Yes, you can have explosions. Yes, you can have gunfights and car chases and all that other stuff, but it still comes down to the story. And the other stuff I can forgive if the story starts, if there's too many plot holes in the story, then I mean, like the one of the worst ever, which just, well, like, by the way, the thing that got me off Star Wars entirely was The Last Jedi, which was, the one where Rose, saved the Finn, the black guy from the blast at the end, and
yeah, I
Carrie
never
Fisher.
saw that one, to be
Oh
honest
God,
with you.
yeah, never ever do it. I never ever do it. It was so, the character assassinations, the universe changes using hyperspace as a weapon, all that crap. It was so horrible that I was like going, I'm never gonna watch another thing that you guys ever make again. You destroy the
Hmm.
universe. That's how quickly you can do it.
Yeah.
It
Well, I
anyway.
I have to tell you that I was a huge video game player also, like you,
Yes.
because you basically was getting familiar or getting famous because you won this pinball tournament,
Oh yeah,
right?
that was my first taste of fame. Yeah, I won a world pinball tournament. Yeah.
Yeah, and you end up
Digital.
in developing games, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I ended up working for that company and ended up becoming a video game producer and a ringer. I would go to the video game conferences like E3 and Macworld and stuff like that, and I
Wow.
would make the games look better than they were because I was good. I'm a good video game player. I'm just gonna say it.
Hmm.
And when you're good, you know a few tricks, kind of like mountain biking or skateboarding. You can make the skateboard do a lot more than the average person. The average person's just gonna fall on his face. But you
Yeah,
could be like
yeah.
jumping. It's like, and you're doing through all these things. It's like, yeah, see, it's easy, right? And when you're at a conference doing that, people are like, oh, I want to buy that game. It looks so cool. It's like, it's not as cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, because I was doing well, first my introduction of video games
Yeah.
was probably in the 80s, where there was only this little plateau and this ball, and you have to, I don't know what the game called is. There was this ball and you have to ping pong or something like that
But
to,
break bricks.
yeah, that was
Yeah.
my first introduction.
I think, yeah. The official, it depends which version. I mean, the official term of that would have been breakout, but there was another better version called Arkanoid, which was so
Arkanoid.
Arkanoid was awesome.
and
Arkanoid
th-
was
and then and
great.
then the other two things that I can remember was these 1942 planes that
Sure.
you could only do it from the left to the right, and there
Yep.
was this battleships coming up and you have to
Yep.
shoot them down, and then
Yep.
of course Street Fighter, ready to rock, and then you have to punch the guys. And if
Yep.
you I was then getting my own PC, and Wolfenstein, Return to Castle
Oh.
Wolfenstein, that was, oh
You did the Return to Castle Wolfenstein.
yeah.
Oh yeah, that was gorgeous. I played that. I played that all the way through multiple times. That was a
Oh,
lot
I
of
still
fun.
have it on my old computer.
Yeah, that's
It's
cool.
it's it's still one of the best I ever played.
Oh, you're absolutely right. That was a fantastic game. Love that game. Love the
Yeah.
missions. Uh, really, really great game.
And did you knew about 3 years ago or 4 years ago, they put it out, Wolfenstein, the New World Order. So Blazkowicz was basically in 1942 or something like that,
Yeah.
where this Return to Castle Wolfenstein is, came back in 2025 or something like that. And the Nazis, and he's waking up in this new reality, and the Nazis took over. So they
Huh?
won. And he has to
Oh,
fight them in the quite in the future. So you have some drones and stuff like going on, just like, what are you trying to say there? How do you get this
well,
information?
there was a wonderful television series that was done a few years ago, and I'm sure they ripped off the television series called The Man in the High Castle, which was based on books, which was, yeah, what if Germany did win the war? And people don't get how close they were to winning that whole thing. If and again, that's a whole nother conspiracy, which is Pearl Harbor, which
Hmm.
is, if Pearl Harbor isn't attacked by the Japanese, the Americans never enter World War II. And that's it. It's over. People forget. It's like, but before the Americans entered World War II, the Germans had it. They had it in the bag, as the sports, the sports
Yeah, yeah,
metaphors. It's
yeah.
like Russia was on fire. They had already killed 25 million. We don't even know how many people died in Russia, but there was a lot. 25 million Russians. England was target practice for the first cruise missiles, right? That was early NASA stuff, just getting, England.
Hmm.
And the plan was, people forget that the big plan was that America was supposed to join up with Germany without a shot being fired, because there was a lot of Germans already over here. I know, I come from a German family, and like Minnesota and Wisconsin, that was just full, still is full of German people. And they were supposed to, so what was going to happen was they were going to win the war, and then they were going to fly dual flags over here, and then eventually it was just going to be Germany. And it's like, no, America was way too rich in resources. It's like, no, 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 no. We want that place absolutely pristine. We
Hmm.
don't want anyone to do anything. And the Americans back then, before World War, before Pearl Harbor, they didn't want to have anything to do with the war. It's like, that's Europe's problem. That's
Yeah,
not our
exactly.
problem. They could,
They,
and
they only got involved when with D-Day.
well, no, no, Pearl Harbor before that. Well,
Oh
yes,
yeah,
but
well that
D-Day,
was a few months before, and then
well, I
they.
was almost a year. But Pearl Harbor, for example, was, so what happened was that Germany, if you went back in time and you had to change something, Germany should have never allied with Japan, because once Japan attacked Hawaii, then that meant that America was at war with Japan, which meant that America was automatically at war with Germany, because they were part of the Axis. You know,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
and so and seriously, I mean, it would, even though, I mean, yeah, 3,000 men died in Hawaii. It was such a weird attack, but it was like, oh yeah, that's it. We're going to war, and we mobilized everything, and that turned the tide. But the Man in the High Castle, something went wrong there, and we didn't, either we got in too late and it didn't really matter. So the United States was split, where Japan got the West Coast and Germany got most of the East. And yeah, it was there are many there's been a number of books written. It's like, do you know the odds of us in different timelines, if you believe in
Mhm.
different timelines? I think Germany won most of the time because come on, this was a country. You don't get to say this very often because Rome, like the Roman Empire, it took them a while to spread everywhere, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Germany all of a sudden woke up one morning and said, "Hey, you know what? Let's take on the whole world. I think we can pull it off." Like, and
And they
they
pulled it
were
off
doing
quite
it.
some. I think
Yeah,
the first,
they were hammering people. They got to France so quick that by the
yeah,
time Europe's heads were spinning, they're like, "So are we conquered? Is this over?"
is this, yeah, yeah. And it just
Yeah,
blink of an eye.
it was bad, and of course all the conspiracies about the like the time machines that that Germany was building and all their I mean, come on, they had weapons. Okay, there's another conspiracy behind that, which
Mhm.
is the only reason that Germany even did it was they had their version of Roswell, but in the 30s, where a ship crashed into soft mud, dirt, and
Okay.
didn't break up, and the Germans like, oh, we're going to reverse engineer the hell out of this thing, and they reverse engineered all this stuff, and look what they had. I mean, they had their weaponry was top notch all across the
Oh
board.
yeah.
Their tanks were great, their planes were, I mean, they had jets at the end of World War II. Their rifles were better. It was all just incredible. But go back on the Pearl Harbor side, the conspiracy there is that the America let Hawaii get hit because they knew they couldn't convince the American. Look, America, we'll give the American mothers. Mothers don't like their sons going to fight for things, but they will always fight for revenge. And that is really the same with human beings across the board. It's one of the oldest tricks in the book, and I'm sure you've done it to your friends
Yeah,
when you were a
yeah, yeah.
kid, which was
Absolutely. Yeah.
you walk up behind somebody, you hit them in the back of the head, and when they spin around, you point at your best friend. Yeah, you point at that guy, right?
Yeah.
And they always go for it. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, they always go after your friend. You can do that on a mass scale, which is, I mean, yeah, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, but who allowed Japan to attack Pearl Harbor? Come on, they
Yeah, yeah.
attack out of nowhere on a Sunday morning. Come on,
No, no. But it's the
and
same thing that I think. Sorry to interrupt you, but it's the
no, you're
same
good.
thing that I think about. So the Soviet Union, the Russians, they are the biggest problem for this world. Well,
Right.
if it wasn't Russia that sent them soldiers into the war to Germany,
Yeah.
there would be nothing left
Oh,
for.
dude. Oh no, you're preaching to the choir here on this one. I tell people, and I'm not slamming vets, but here's a great example for you. When you look up, you can look up this up all day long. Say
Mhm,
how many Americans died during World War II, and it's 400, little over 400,000,
mhm.
down to the man, right? It's like 400,
Yeah.
15,000,
Don't look
274,
up the
right?
Russians.
We
It's,
we know exactly how many. You say how many Russians died? We don't know. We can't even round it to the nearest million
that's
because
unbelievable.
Germany was wiping out entire regions and they couldn't even count the dead. They're just saying, well, we're pretty sure like 3 million people lived in this region, so they're
And
all
they're gone.
gone. Yeah, so the best we could even hope for is maybe, if they say the estimates are like between 22 and 27 million. And you're saying, well, what's the point? My point is first that is so for every American that died, 50 Russians died. That's how many
Unbelievable.
people died. It was bad. I mean, there was that one movie with Jude Law. You probably remember that sniper movie, and they weren't
Oh
kidding.
yeah,
They
behind
didn't have
enemy
enough
lines.
rifles. Yeah, I think so. Was it that one? Could have been.
Yeah,
To
yeah. When he was
where
lying
they
in
would.
this pile of dead bodies, and he eventually got one Mauser of a Mosin Genannt and
I
shoot all
could have.
these bastards. I
I
think it
think it
was
was.
behind enemy lines.
In the beginning of the movie though, where they were sending troops out, they didn't have enough rifles, but they knew their guys were going to die, so they say, okay, when the guy, you're going to follow this guy, you're not even going to have a gun. When he dies, grab his rifle. and this
Oh,
and they told everybody this. It's happened all the time, so these guys were running out in pairs. It's like because they knew these guys are going to get mowed down. Yeah, Russia, all credit to Russia. Like,
oh,
look, they have the respect for me. Well, here's another conspiracy for you, really quick. one of my favorite ones of all time. It's a great little story because I think that Russia has been the United States' secret brother in arms for a long time. It goes
Mm.
all the way back to the Civil War, which is, our country was founded because we broke away from England, right? And England tried to take it back. And it's like the first time they tried to take it back was, of course, 1776. And France came in. The French Empire was a thing back then, and basically France won that war for us, right? And then they sold us America back, and the Statue of Liberty is French. It's like that's their big stamp. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, this was a French thing. And so I'll credit to France, right? So then Britain's like, oh no, we're not done yet. We're going to try again. So all we have to do is wipe out France. Then we're going back and getting America. So they take out Napoleon, right? Napoleon at Waterloo. They take him out and they say, okay, we're coming back for America. At one point during one of their probe missions, they burned the White House down. They came in through the top. That's how they knew they could take us. They came in through Canada, burned the White House, and then they're like, oh, we got this. Take care of Napoleon, we'll come back. But things took longer back then. So they take care of
Oh yeah.
Napoleon and they come in down through New Orleans, down through the south, through the Gulf of Mexico, and we stop them. Just got lucky, right? The Britain was weakened enough from the Napoleon War that they're like, we just couldn't do it. And so, but they're like, okay, we got one more shot. And this is the part that we just wrote out of our history books, which was like, Britain figured out we'll infiltrate the southern states, the slave states, right?
Mm-hmm.
We'll supply them all the weapons. We'll supply the entire Confederate Navy, and it'll be the South versus the North. But the South will have the British Navy as their backup, and it'll be an amazing war. And the point was the British Navy will blockade off the North so no immigrants can get into the North. The reason why the North won the war is because all the immigrants that were coming from Europe, half of them were going straight into the war because, like, we'll give you citizenship, just put on this, the North
This
uniform,
jacket
carry
and
a
run
rifle.
through that way.
Yeah, if you survive, you're a citizen. And they weren't kidding. And it was like, oh yeah. But the North had this wonderful, the story goes like this, that Lincoln wrote, and you probably know European history better than I do. Nicholas the First, I think, of Russia, right? He
Mm-hmm.
wrote him and he goes, and it was just a simple request. And he goes, keep Britain out of the war. That's all we want. And Russia contacts Britain and they say, if your ships go in, our ships go in. And it would have been just a knockdown drag. It would have been World War I back in the
Oh yeah.
1860s.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
and England said, damn it. And they screw it, and we're pretty sure that the assassination attempt, the Booth thing was fine, was backed by England just for out of spite. And it's like, take care of Lincoln. That's the best we can do. And that was it.
Huh.
That was so they went for us 3 different times. And you're saying, well, that's a nice story, but is it true? I go, well, isn't it though? Because right after the war ended, Russia sold us this giant piece of worthless land for no apparent reason, even though we didn't have the money for it. And that is now known as Alaska.
Huh.
And Alaska, of course, turned out really great because it has oil on it. But we still have to pay people to go to Alaska to live there. It's the only state in the union where if you want to move there, we'll pay you to do it because it's just
You're gonna
might
die
as well.
probably.
Well, I mean, it might as well be Siberia, right? It's like
Yeah. Yeah.
nobody wants to live in Siberia, nobody wants to live in Alaska, but there's fishing up there, there's oil, there's good jobs, and now it's like
There's
we
wood.
got there's some wood, there's
You can
things
build
to
your wooden house.
yeah, you could build. No, there's some cities up there, but I mean, it's still not. It's
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's
Anyway,
it's
sorry.
really, really, well, basically wasteland, and you have to know the environment to survive.
Oh
Without
yeah, no.
shelter, without
Everybody
warmth.
lives on the coast. I mean, it's cities, and
Yeah,
they
is
spend
Dead Horse, is that Alaska?
what?
Where these
Dead Horse, Alaska?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Why?
think it is, right? There are few
Oh, that
cities.
famous bar.
Yeah, I saw it on, well, Discovery, right? Connects a lot of people throughout the world. I think it was about these gold diggers. They had these big machines that were digging into the sea because there was a lot of gold.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah. Here,
I
well,
think it is Dead Horse, right?
yep. Dead Horse, Alaska is the northernmost. Oh yeah, it's a terrible place.
Yeah, it's a
It is the
wasteland.
very. It's pretty much in the Arctic Circle. It's how many people even live there?
I
Oh,
think
it is all.
1500 or something like that.
Well, in 1970, the population was 163. Oh no, it's gone down. There's nobody up there anymore.
No,
It's just it's just it's
a harsh environment.
yeah, it is awful. It is
I think average temperature is like -25
Yeah,
in the summer.
I'm looking at the chart. When the chart goes into purple and blues that you do not see in nature, yeah, negative record low, -52. Yeah, it might as well be northern Russia. It is awful.
Wow.
So yeah, but the point was is like Russia sold this to us when we didn't have any money. So why would we buy this after the Civil War? It's like because you owe us. It's like, yeah, but all you did was write a letter to England. It's like, yeah, but it was a pretty good letter.
That was a good one. But
So yeah.
just a little bit recap what
Yeah.
you said about that the guys were sent to war.
Yeah.
I know that I think it was Call of Duty, this video game when you come in Stalingrad and you're in this boat, you're hobbling through Stalingrad, and you hear the Stukas coming over you. You come on land, and the only thing you got is a 5 clip bullet of a five
Yeah.
clip ammo, right?
Yeah.
So you just like you look around first time in the game, and when you look back, the sergeant is standing there with the gun, and they shoot
Yeah.
you basically. So
Yeah.
okay, we only have to head that way, but you have nothing, and there's well they build it so and talking about video games,
Yeah.
we were talking about video games in the 80s with this big pixel things, right? But if you dig into the video games nowadays, I haven't been played for probably 1 or 2 years. I loved Far Cry, this big land where you can do everything. Animals attack you. The sun is setting. The stars in the sky. It's so wow. And nowadays the games are just like, am I watching a movie,
Yeah.
or is this a game? You can say it's a game anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much cinematics and they spend so much time on the graphics. That's one of those nerd things, by the way, coming from game production, which is that is the cutting edge of video technology, which is they all it's never changed, which is how good can we make the shadows? How good can we make the particle physics? How good can we make the real physics?
Hmm.
The they're absolutely obsessed with it all the time, but it pushes them to make stuff now where yeah, the games, I mean, going even back to Return to Wolfenstein. The graphics even then, I think, were absolutely outstanding
Oh
for
yeah.
their era.
And I was
Um,
playing Soldier of Fortune. Know that one?
yeah,
The first two one, like Soldier of Fortune and then Double Helix.
yeah,
They made the weapons with the bullets
yeah,
just like that. So when you're shooting with a 9 millimeter to somebody's arm, he was just
yeah.
humping and shoot you anyway. Just like whoa. And
Yeah,
I
that's
know,
been an argument in
yeah.
games for
And
years,
Max
which is,
Payne, the first
of course,
good one, when you're shooting on a can, there was a hole in the can. I love that shit. When something is really realistic, and when
yeah,
you shoot at a pile that there's a hole in it and stuff like that, a
yeah,
wooden door, there's some cracks. Far Cry had that also when it was in I think the second one or the third one was in Africa, and when you shot these were these in Africa, you had this. What was it? It was like a house, but it
yeah.
was only made from some plates. And when you shot at it, when you're standing inside, you could see the sun coming through.
Nice.
Splinter Cell, that one was graphically wow. When it
Yeah,
comes to shadows, Tom Clancy's
sure.
Splinter Cell. Oh, that's me. That's me in the 90s and 2000s of video gaming.
Yeah.
Brought video gaming and developing video games you closer to flat Earth.
Yes.
Explain me why.
What do you mean? Why? Well, the big thing for what, and it's not even just okay. Let me back up just a second, which is the reason why I even say flat Earth is because the term simulation theory or digital world or virtual world still, even after all this time, does not resonate with the general public that much. They just don't get it.
Hmm.
People forget that as of this year, Oh, good Lord. The Matrix, I think it's the 25th anniversary of the Matrix. Yeah. Yeah. 25th,
Is it?
25 years ago. Yeah. Because it was 1999. And
Wow.
yeah, I know that is a
Reality
long
check.
time. Yeah, no, it is. I know The Matrix was 1999 because it was the high point in American cinema. There was no year like that ever. It never got any better after that. It plateaued out after the end of the Lord of the Rings, but 1999 was the high watermark.
Hmm.
And the point was The Matrix. Yeah, people enjoyed the graphics. They enjoyed kind of the story, but they didn't really get it. We are living in a world where there are things happening around us that only computers can describe, or we're putting in video games. The of course the one of the most common would be the double slit experiment, which
Mhm.
is in physics, in the computer world, which again we didn't know what we were doing when we made it, which is called flashlight graphics, which is and I made a video of it and I put it on my channel, and I used GTA as an example, which is wherever you're not, right? So if you're in a game, you're whatever's in front of you, hey, you can see it, it's being rendered perfectly. Behind you, if it's being rendered at all, it's being rendered so poorly that it doesn't make any difference. It's only being completely refined when you spin around and see it. That's why I call it flashlight graphics. You might as well
Aha.
be in a room with a flashlight because whatever's behind you is completely black. Now, it's processing the possibilities of what might be happening behind you, but until
Uh-huh.
you look at it, it's not going to draw it. And you're saying, okay, what's the point? I go, you remember what in school here, there was a question posed to us, good God, back in grade school, which is a tree falls in the forest and you're not there to see it, doesn't make a sound.
Huh.
And people, and back in the 70s in school and 80s, like, you have no idea what that question, but now we know, which is no, because there's no freaking tree there because the tree isn't rendered yet. There's no forest. There's nothing there. There's nothing to make a
Ah.
sound at all. The observer, the double slit experiment says that only the observer gets to see what's going on. We hooked this up with an electron gun, which was they figured out just by accident that when they were firing electrons off in a distance, right, at a target, when they turned the camera off, it was acting differently. It was acting like there was like nothing was happening. It was acting like a wave, like it was potential. And they turned the camera back on, and it's like, well, now it's acting like a particle again. And I put that challenge out to physics people all the time. I go, tell me that's not what you think it is. Because yeah, I mean, you could use the word magic, or you could use the word some sort of virtual
Hmm.
reality, which is what we do. Again, I'll use the game reference for you, which is you see a mountain off in the distance. We'll use Wolfenstein just for the heck of it, right?
Mhm.
You see a mountain off in the distance because Wolfenstein's very linear. There's some
Yeah.
places you can't go. Now you can see the mountain, but you know your character is never going to get there, right? The question is, do you draw anything on the other side of that mountain? No. Why would
No.
you?
Makes
It's a
no
waste of
sense.
resources. Yeah, it makes no sense. The game's never going to allow you. You're never going to get there. So why would you ever draw it? In fact, it's permanently never going to draw it. You might as well be in an old Western movie set where there's only the front of the shops and behind the
Yeah,
shops
yeah,
there's
behind
nothing.
us nothing.
There's
Probably the
nothing there.
catering.
So the question is, why is that happening here? Right?
Hmm.
Why is what we do in video games happening in the real world? And this was actually touched on. This is not a new concept. This was touched on
Wow.
in a movie called The 13th Floor from 1998, which was based on a German movie from the 1970s. What the Germans were thinking, I have no idea, called World on a Wire, which was based on a 1960s book called Simulacron 3, which was once a civilization got to a certain point where they were creating their own simulations. Remember, book was written in the 60s when there were
Uh-huh.
no computers. When you got to a point, and you'll get this, you'll absolutely get this, when because we're trying now and we're not going to be allowed to do it. It's just part of the rules of this world. I guarantee it. Which
Hmm.
is if you got to a point where you could actually jump in like the Matrix into a virtual world, when you came out of it, how would you know you came out of it? Meaning, who's to say that you're not in which was the whole concept of the 13th floor, which was the scientist that created the simulation. He's going, no, no, he's going, forget about the simulation. Whatever the rules are, whatever the thing to prove that you were in a simulation, try it here and see what happens. and it
Huh.
worked. And so all of a sudden it's like, oh crap, you know. And this was touched on in the Star Trek episode, Next Generation, where you know a simulation inside a simulation, and then you're again because and the reason why it wouldn't be allowed here, why I don't think GTA is ever going to become a something you could plug into,
Hmm.
is because once that happens, this world that you and I are talking on
Hmm.
becomes worthless. It becomes meaningless because at
Yeah.
that point, in fact, I'll give you I know I'm all over the place here,
Yeah.
but
That's what I like.
all right, there's a wonderful comic strip illustrator guy, I think it was Scott Adams, who made the comic strip Dilbert back in the day, and it was called Dilbert and Dogbert. It was very tech oriented, and he wrote the forward to this book that I read. And he goes, "The last invention we'll ever make is the holodeck from Star Trek, right? From Next Generation." He goes, "Because once that happens, no one will care about anything else but the holodeck because that's your fantasies becoming real."
Huh.
For lack of a better term, he's going. In fact, I expanded on that. It's like, yeah, it never made sense to me in Star Trek that the holodecks were always available. There were never lines to get into the freaking holodeck. Those things should have been booked. Remember, this was like a submarine right out in space. Those
Yeah.
things should have been reserved for months in advance. And it was like, no, no, let's just go down to the holodeck. I'm sure there'll be one open. It's like, why? Why would it be open? You can do
Yeah.
anything in the holodeck. So, but anyway, back to this. The virtual world. Do what? Sorry, circle back. Which is the reason I use flat Earth as the original term
Hmm.
is because all simulations are made on a flat Earth, meaning the programmers don't build in curvature because who's going to notice whether the curvature is there or not?
Huh.
The average player isn't going to know, or would they even care? In fact, it's programming wise, it's way harder. You're going to try to program it in 8 inches per mile per mile. No, no. So when you look off into the distance, off the beach in GTA or wherever, the horizon's always absolutely perfectly flat. And in fact,
Okay.
we had to build in weather effects because remember, in technically in a virtual world, it's a vacuum. There's no
Hmm.
atmosphere, there's no air, there's no oxygen or carbon. So when you look off into the distance, you see forever. Basically, you see all the way to the horizon line. So they had to build in clouds and fog and rain and
Yeah.
crap
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. And because of that, they they tried to again they tried to simulate where we are now, but the curvature was never ever built in. So when I say flat earth, I go, yeah, at the end of the day, GTA and Minecraft and Warcraft and everything, they're tabletop flat. Oh, I mean, yeah, they're mountains and stuff and valleys,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
the
Exactly.
edges
Exactly.
line up. In fact,
Huh.
Minecraft is such a great example of that because it's so overly square.
It's just
Everything's yeah, everything's
square.
absolutely square. And when you back out and back out, it's just square and square and square. So so yeah, when you look at like and I don't want to get into the biblical stuff necessarily so much, but at the very end, engineering is all about right angles, right? Even
Yeah.
computers, you know this, computers can't draw circles. They can only draw something that looks like a circle with squares. All they do is make the squares.
Oh my God.
I know, right?
True.
True,
I once
true.
was with a sniper rifle, and I think I don't know the game, but if you take a sniper rifle and you put it on the sun or at the moon in the game,
Yeah.
you see only
See the
squares.
pixels. Yeah. Well, I mean, it goes all the way back. That's why Minecraft bugged me so much, by the way. I do not think it's a game. I hate Minecraft because it's like, look, you go forward, you make the resolution better, you don't make it worse. And yet all the kids were like,
You make
the kids were
more
like, this is
perfect squares.
yeah, that's all squares. It's all blocks. And by the way, if I ever get to go back in time, I'm just gonna go to like the execs at Lego,
Uh-huh.
and I'm gonna say, yeah, you contact this guy and you give him a truckload of money and you buy him out, and you will have merchandising rights forever. Because this thing
Oh,
absolutely should have been endorsed by Lego. And yet they didn't. I mean, he stole some of the Lego aspects, and I'm sure some of their attorneys are like, yeah, he's not using blocks technically.
oh.
So anyway, but yeah, computers can't draw circles. They can only draw things that look like circles.
But it's
Because again,
fascinating because we put in the data to a computer to get some mathematics out or stuff like that because we can handle that stuff.
yeah,
But when you say that when you develop a game that you have some boundaries, like say,
yeah,
where you make it yourself harder if you make something different,
yeah,
like a curve.
a curve. The
So
boundaries of any video game are
yeah,
straight edges all the way
people would
around.
say people would say to us when they listen to us talk, oh yeah, guys, but these are video games. No, these are basically physics that you put in
Yeah.
to get something,
Yeah.
out, just like a scientist does or should
Yeah.
do. Put
And
some
we're
data in and get some data out. And there are always boundaries with what you do.
and the
Unbelievable.
boundaries from an engineering standpoint are always squared off. And like in any game, for example, every game uses, when it comes to the sky, is called a skybox
Uh-huh.
system, which is everything's boxed off. Now we in that skybox, we can create the illusion of anything we want. We can put planets and and stars and everything. And there's only so often you can look at that, because now, as you've said, we've gotten very, very good at it. To where,
Oh
like
yeah.
even with the early Warcraft stuff, I'm looking up some of the planets and I'm going, wow, these are good. These are really, really good. Well, imagine what a civilization could do, if they had, higher technology.
Hmm.
How easy it would be to fool people. And it's like, well, we wouldn't fall for it. It's like, wouldn't we? I go, think of, I know you guys don't have Amish people over there, but you know what Amish are. Like
Yeah,
over here,
yeah.
they're people that don't use Western technology at all.
Hmm.
Right? They just build houses by hand and stuff. Like, they don't have
They
the
do
internet.
everything basically by nature.
Yeah, it might as well be the 1800s, the
Hmm.
mid 1800s here in the United States. Well, if you took one of those Amish people and you blindfolded them and put them in, a planetarium, and then took the blindfold off and had him stare at the sky, it's
Hmm.
gonna freak him out, because he's not gonna know he's looking like, wow, look at the stars. It's like, why is the moon out? What am I looking at? I mean, try to explain. Look what we've done just recently. Try to explain a freaking smartphone to somebody, even 50, 60 years ago. How do you
Yeah, I
explain
was
that
just
to them?
thinking when you were telling that. Look at the movies like the 50s and the 60s,
Yeah,
where they were black and white.
yeah,
And I know that there was something going on with they had this organization that should look if basically if movies could be in 18 plus time frame, yes or no, or if they could be seen in the cinema. So
sure.
they have to well, basically the sex movies were sexual. So
Right.
you got Emmanuel in the late 80s, 70s, I think it was
Late
Emmanuel.
70s. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So and then they saw, oh, there's a new kind of public that has some harassment and stuff like that going on, sexual harassment. So they banned it from the cinemas and they put it
Sure.
into another box.
Right.
But when you look at what they told them then is, oh, violence is no problem because you
Right.
hey, stick up punk, and they shot and you saw some ketchup and he was dramatically playing a character that is dying. But
Right.
nowadays, because it's still allowed, you can blow
Yeah.
somebody up and you can see every piece flying around and
Yeah.
stick it to the wall. If you look at
Uh,
Tarantino, eh, how, right? So when you see the evolution of like 50 years of television,
Right.
movies, cinemas, and gameplay,
Right.
that's tremendous. And I
Oh
think
yeah.
there are nowadays video games where you can buy and advertise on land. So basically, you walk in this 25,000 square mile land, and all of a sudden you see disorganized productions, podcasting now with Mark Sargent.
Right. Right.
You only have to buy for it in. But so basically, what they're trying to do, in my opinion, is this beautiful world that's created by call it God for
Yeah.
what this
Yeah.
perspective of God is, but by the Creator, this is the things that are real and realistic. They say no. Put your headphones up, put your VR glasses up, and there's your new world. You can do
Right.
whatever you think. You can play every character that you want. So if
Right.
you're really a big guy like 300 pounds and you only drink Coca-Cola and chips, you can
Yeah.
be a healthy guy online, with a
Right.
six pack. So
Yeah.
it's all in the mind. It's crazy when you see
Abs-
how that goes. So,
Absolutely.
okay, I got some questions for you, Mark.
Sure. Sure.
And I love this conversation already because, like I said, I love to skip branches like a squirrel.
Okay.
So I'm gonna
But
write an address.
can we cap it at 2 hours, by the way?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's do
So
that.
we got
50
uh
minutes.
yeah, or that will do. That will do perfectly. Perfect. Thank you very much for your time.
Hmm.
Um, so my question will be this. Would you did you ever know that when you were bringing up flat Earth files, flat Earth?
Yeah.
I like to be a critical thinker. That's more in my perspective.
Yeah.
That you were getting so famous that there was going to be so much attention going on about that topic.
No, no, not even close. No, I mean when and believe me, I did not try to get into it for fame or money or any of that stuff. It was a cry for help more than anything, which was I consider myself a fairly clever problem solver. I did high level tech support for software for years. And when again, I wasn't getting any younger, so this was part of my bucket list. It's like, all right, I'm gonna look at the conspiracy, which I swore I would never look at because it's so stupid. And as I was looking at it, it's like, well, again, I should be able to solve this. And I couldn't solve it and I couldn't solve it. And so when I finally got into it, when I first released the clues, I knew there was something happening because people were contacting me that shouldn't have been. Like Coast to Coast and other, some fairly big podcasts at the time. And then some people were calling me off the now, granted, I put my contact information out there so people could get a hold of me, but that was deliberate because it's like, all right, can you guys solve this? I know the internet as a hive mind is very intelligent,
Mm-hmm.
right? You ask a big group of people, there will be somebody in there, the law of averages, that will figure stuff out. But for the first 6 months, I didn't even know if it was gonna work at all. I didn't know if it was. I mean, great, there were people contacting me, but I wasn't sure until um until TFR. There was a network out here that wanted to have me do a podcast, and right after that happened, there was a lady out at there was a network out in New York City called True Television,
Mm-hmm.
and she goes, look, and she was ahead of this thing. She absolutely knew. She knew. And she goes, look, this is generating so much buzz. It's unique. She goes, but it's an easy term. People know the term, but they don't know the term. She's going, this thing is going to be big. And she created a promotional reel that she was going to pitch to her television network. And you can imagine, right? It's like, okay, what projects we have? Rebecca, what do you have? She goes, let me tell you what I got. I got flat Earth. And she rolls this thing on screen, right?
Uh-huh.
And afterwards, her VP goes, Rebecca, can I see you in my office for a minute? Right? They fired her, right?
Oh my
And they
God.
did. They fired her because this was back in 2015. There's no way we are going to put a flat Earth television show. She wanted to do a reality show, and she wanted to do it like they were going to start filming it in 2016, which
Uh-huh.
she was way ahead of this. But when I knew, okay, you want to know when I knew that this thing was going to go
Uh-huh.
was when there was a Rolling Stone article talking about Kyrie Irving, a professional basketball player who had done, there were layers to it, to where people were reacting to reacting to reacting because it's like, wait, are we talking about this now? And then like everyone started talking about this.
Uh-huh.
And but the big thing for me, of course, was the documentary, which I don't know if you ever watched, Behind the Curve,
Behind the curves.
which
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, where those again, that started out, it wasn't even supposed to be a thing. People don't understand that 99% of the movies that are produced in this country, in the United States, you'll never see. They're shot. You can shoot movies all day long. You can have a couple $1 million to shoot a movie, but unless you have somebody to distribute it, a network to put it on, no one's going to see it, right?
Oh
Now,
yeah,
yeah, you can put
right.
it out on YouTube, but how much traction is it going to get?
Hmm.
So what happened was they shot the movie. There was just this Hollywood group. There was an offshoot of another Hollywood group. And it was basically, in my opinion, just kids that were doing this as a side project. And they're like, well, it's never gonna do anything. It's not like we're gonna get into film festivals, right? Because
Uh-huh.
if you don't have a buyer right away, you have to apply to film festivals in different parts of the country or internationally. And
Yeah.
every place they submitted, oh my God, they got into so many film festivals constantly. They're like because it was so unique. And then they said, well, it's not like it's going to sell. It's not like we're going to actually pick up a distributor, right? And immediately, like iTunes picked it up, and Amazon picked it up, and YouTube Red, and then finally Netflix picked it up. And I knew that day that when it happened because my email load doubled like overnight to where, and I was already getting a bunch of emails, and all of a sudden it was like I woke up, it's like, what's
What the
happening?
hell?
Why is there so many emails? And I was asking people, it's like, has something happened yesterday? It's like, oh yeah, the documentary was released on Netflix. I was going, oh wow, I had no idea that Netflix was that popular.
Huh.
It was, I didn't realize that. I knew they were number one, but I didn't know how number one they
Yeah,
were.
or that people dig in that topic because you got
Right.
so
Oh yeah,
many.
that too. And again, it was unique, and the title, even the title, it made people look. I sat in some of the film festivals with audiences, and people felt safe watching it because it looked like you were going to make fun of flat earthers, and they did for the most part. It was,
Yeah, yeah,
they took shots at us, no question.
totally
And
agree.
the producers hated us, the director hated us. And in fact, it got worse for them because they realized by the time they got to the conference that this was a thing, right? And they didn't know how to spin it. So because it was supposed to be just a generic human interest piece, but they said, well, we got to take an angle against, because this was getting too big, and they didn't want us talking to kids. And the irony there, and I actually wrote one of the producers this year or last year about this, was that because it became a Netflix documentary, that meant that it was media sanctioned, which meant that science teachers all over the place now could use that without any repercussions. It's like there's a big difference between a YouTube video and a Netflix video. So a science
Uh-huh.
teacher would be like, well, it's Netflix, it's family friendly, there's no bad language. I'm going to have my kids watch it in my
Show it
class.
up.
And because of that, I lost count of how many classrooms that, now I wasn't invited to go to the school itself. It was always a video conference. You wouldn't be
Uh-huh.
dumb enough to bring me into the class. But I tons and tons of kids, more kids watched flat earth content because of the documentary, which was again funny for me because part of their angle in the documentary was they wanted to make fun of flat earth so that kids wouldn't watch it.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, and it turned out great. So yeah, in the end, no, nobody had any
No,
idea
no.
it was
But
gonna
but
generate.
was it good? Was it good for you and for the community uh to dig more into these topics, that you had a more a questionable audience that would ask the right questions so you could dig in? I, for example, have on Monday I will have David Weiss.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So
Nice,
I
David.
have.
David's great. And David, by the way, should have been in the documentary, and he almost was. He and I met for the first time down at that conference in Raleigh, and
Wow.
you didn't see him there. He was just getting into it to where he was there, but he wasn't generating a whole bunch of content. The app wasn't even near being done. He hadn't gotten his routine down. And no, but David and he's great. In fact, I had dinner with him at uh the conference
Flatover.
at Flytoberfest. It was great. And I'm hoping to convince him to actually do a presentation. He hates going up on stage. He hates doing, he loves talking to people on video things. He
Yeah,
hates
yeah,
going up on
yeah.
stage. And I don't blame him. It's like, no, public speaking is definitely not for most people. But he's got so much material that I think I could walk him through a Q&A
Mm.
that he could do. I mean, you'll love it when you have him on. I'm sure you've had him do stuff. He hits you. The reason why he does so well is he figured out how to, because initially his first interviews did not go well because he made people angry. People got mad.
Because
Because
the
he'll
belief system, because of
yeah.
the things that he provided, just like it's so contradictional against our beliefs
Right.
that you offends people, right?
It does. To where he can, I don't know if he did deliberately or just worked out that way naturally, which was what he does is he hits you with so many scientific facts, your facts. That's where the thing is. He's reminding the people, he puts people on their heels because he reminds people of what you're defending.
Mm.
Again, I'll rattle off just so it's like, how first you don't answer. How fast is the Earth spinning, on its axis? How fast is it traveling around the sun? How fast is the solar system flying sideways? How fast is our Milky Way galaxy traveling? And it's like none of the people know any of this stuff. It's like,
Mm.
okay, why are you defending something that you don't know? Right? How
Exactly.
are you defending? You don't know the details about your own universe model. So why are you defending it? You don't even know it. And
Yeah, and
then all of a sudden, and he hits him with so many things. You can see the silence kind of. he shuts them down to where they're
Like the
like,
blood is running out.
yeah, they're like, oh crap, I don't know anything. Again, I'll give you a great line, which is from George Orwell, the guy that wrote 1984.
Yeah.
He wrote in 1946 in this, I can't remember if it was a Gazette newspaper or whatever it was, but he goes, again, he wasn't a flat earther, but he said, it's interesting. He goes, you go down the street and you ask people how they know the earth is a globe. They'll just say, what are you talking about? It's known. It's a known thing that it's a globe. It's like, really? How do you know? And then all of a sudden, again, that look in your face, it's like, then the wheels start grinding because like, wait, it's not that you know,
They
you've been
told you.
told. You were told this, and your parents and their parents going all the way back past your family tree for generations and dozens of generations. So the question is, again, yeah, in 1946, how did everybody know that it was a globe? 1946, NASA wasn't even founded until 1958.
Hmm.
So how did you know? Nobody had a spaceship, nobody had rockets, nobody had, and it's like, well, and of course physicists will say, well, because of math. It's like, okay, so you didn't know. You were just told by people that said they probably knew. The question then becomes, if you have the tech to finally see the world as it is, like it is in
Mhm.
1960 when they had the tech, and it isn't, but you've been telling people it is for a long time. Do you tell the people? No, no, you can't. I
No, no,
defend science.
absolutely not.
You
I
can't.
totally agree.
Like,
And
it's like, go ahead.
I think it's very fascinating that when you look at old cultures and old maps and stuff like that,
Yeah,
I was addicted to ancient buildings and monuments and stuff like that on Discovery Channel.
sure.
Um, and then you saw all these old cultures that basically draw a flat Earth map with a Sheol and with a dome
Right.
above it. Yeah. So how did you came up? Like we are still don't know. Maybe we have a theory how the pyramids in Giza are been made, but we look upon these cultures like, wow, that's fascinating
Oh,
how they did it.
we have no idea how the
No,
pyramids were.
but when they say the Earth is flat, oh no, that's crap. So once you say, okay, it's very astonishing and fascinating how they do it, and we still don't know how, but
Yeah.
about the theory that the Earth is flat, no, that's stupid.
Yeah.
How? I can't wrap my head
Uh,
around that.
it's funny. That's how my journey basically started when I was making the clues, which was you can go into Google all day or whatever search engine, just type in ancient cosmologies and click on images, and just walls and walls and walls, and everybody drew the exact same thing. Of
Yeah.
course they would, because the stars go, over the top of us like like in a curved motion. It doesn't take,
Hmm.
it wouldn't take anyone very long to figure out. It's like, oh, well, then we could just draw the whole thing as a big snow globe.
Yeah.
You
They
know, at
navigated through the stars for centuries, for dozens of centuries.
right.
The Vikings, the Polynesians, they were famous about navigating by stars. So
Right.
how could you navigate when you're spinning around in this, well, let's say chaos of speeds,
Right.
because it's 66,000, 39 million, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
How could you be navigating every single century, not like one day, but
Yep.
centuries
Yeah.
with the same thing on the sky?
Absolutely. Well,
That's
yeah.
one of that was one of my bullet points.
Yeah. Yeah. The short version of that is the zodiac has never changed.
No, no.
Right. Oh, it's like, look, the zodiac that people have looked at for hundreds and thousands of years has never changed. And again, the average person be like, so what? It's like, so you don't know what parallax means. That here's a star that's 10 years light years away, supposedly, and there's one that's 1,000 light years away.
Hmm.
And no stars are crossing paths.
No,
The
no.
stars never move out of position. And you say, well, what does that mean? It's like, well, it's a problem in that the Earth and the galaxy and the solar system are flying. That's the one that usually throws people, by the way, which is like, oh no, it's not just that the Earth is spinning around the sun, right? It's the solar system is flying sideways like a plate at
Hmm.
500,000 miles an hour, right? And that is only one of the other motions, which is like that's way faster than anything else. Oh, by the way, that's, oh god, there's so many different things I go into, but
Yeah,
like when you
yeah.
like when you send, like if we're going to send a probe to Jupiter,
Hmm.
when it gets to a point between here and Jupiter, there's no gravity working on it from any side. So if it's the plate is flying this way, right, that probe's gone, right? It's like you're dropping a
Yeah.
ball, like a golf ball, outside of a car window when you're traveling. It's like, oh yeah, that golf ball is going to stay with you for a couple bounces. It's gone after that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just lost in
But
space.
that's
Sorry.
that's most fascinating for me, Mark, that when you talk about some topics, and doesn't matter what topic,
Yeah.
about people, their belief system, and you know a little bit more, or you question the right so you question their belief system,
Right.
they come up with some answers that you can say, this doesn't make sense. How about this or how about that? Then they start to think. With the normal topic, they would say, oh, that's fascinating, or I have to dig into it, or tell me more about it. When it comes to flat Earth, it's like a no-brainer. Oh, no, no, you're
No,
stupid. No,
can't
give
be.
me an argument. Give me something to have a dialogue on or a conversation on, but that's not going to be. That's not
Yeah.
going to be because
It
somehow the system shut off.
Well, there's two reasons for that. One, it's too big for most people. The flat Earth is too big of a concept. It's something you can't walk away from.
it's
Over
worldwide.
here, over here in the United States, we have the best and finest of all conspiracies because we're evil, and we can bury things in the desert. If you don't want to, like JFK, great example,
Mhm.
right? If you don't want to think about it, you don't have to think about JFK, right? It's like, but like, remember, like I told you that drunk guy that called me like 15 times last night.
Uh-huh.
When flat Earth gets in your head, it's not going away because you can't run away from it, right? It's the whole
Exactly.
world. It's once it's stuck in your head, you realize it's kind of like the Neo Matrix thing. If you
Mhm.
remember, the Matrix was like you don't they don't tell people after a certain age because they start to freaking lose it. And I was actually worried about that when I first started talking about this and making this video series. I was like, percentage wise, there's a percentage of people that get into flat earth that might absolutely snap. And which leads me into my other thing, but it never happened, which was great. Turns out when you collapse the universe to a giant studio apartment,
Mhm.
simultaneously you feel more comfortable because it's like, oh, that's a nice apartment. Yeah, you lose space, but at least you don't have to worry about asteroids hitting you or gamma rays or X-rays or black
Yeah.
holes or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But the other thing why people don't get into it is they defer to authority. I don't know if you remember it's a famous experiment. It's done all over the place called the Ash experiment. Wait, no, I'm sorry, not the Ash. Well, that's one of them. The Milgram experiment.
Oh, Milgram
The,
with the electro.
the electric shocks, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So where if you guys don't know what the Milgram experiment is, please look it up, which is what they figured out. And again, the scientists were absolutely wrong. The scientists thought that, oh, okay, if we put somebody in a room with an electric shock thing and asking somebody in another room questions and they answer wrong, we give them electric shocks. We think that they'll only kill the people with electric shocks maybe less than 4% of the time. Right? But it
Turns
turns
out a
out
little bit
a
more.
little bit higher. Yeah, it turns out that because people defer to authority, like basically they figured out as long as the guy with the lab coat and the clipboard is standing next to him, going, "Nod, yeah, do it. Go ahead, do it. It's part of the experiment. You got to do it, right?" They killed the guy 60% of the time.
Oh,
60 wiped him out. And again, that works the other way, which is you defer to authority. If authority, scientists, NASA, whoever, tells you it's a globe, it's a globe, it's a globe, it's a globe, it's a globe,
hmm.
over and over and over, that's burned into your head to where if somebody comes at you, like you were saying, and saying it's not a globe, they're like, oh, how dare you? How dare you? That person there, yeah, my grandfather worked for NASA, and they wouldn't lie. It's like, well, they would again, they would for your own good,
Hmm.
meaning,
But the thing is,
go
and
ahead.
I just want to do a quickie, like a half an hour, because
Okay,
I
go ahead.
love
Go
it
ahead.
that you're enthusiastic, and I want to ask you some questions. But
All
I
right.
know that there was
I will be brief.
I think the movie was called The Experiment. It's been brought out twice in the late 70s, I think, and in the late 90s. It's basically um, volunteers, like 50 people volunteers, and they pinpoint like you are the guard, you're a guard, you're a guard, right? So the
Oh, I know
others
this
are
one.
prisoners,
I know this one.
and they
Yeah.
put some things up to them, and it turns out that the prisoners have no rights at all.
Nope.
But the guards don't have any rights either. But because they are guards and because they're looked at as a higher being or
Yep.
pretend to be a higher being, shit
Right.
comes down the fan really
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant movie about how psychology works. And
Yeah.
it's the same with this Milner
The Milgram experiment.
Milgram.
Yeah, and,
Yeah, Milgram.
or
Milgram.
the
Yeah.
simpler version, which would be the Ash experiment, which is you've seen it many, many times, where like great examples, you put people in an elevator, 5 people in an elevator, they're all actors, right?
Hmm.
And you have you open the elevator door, a person walks in, and then the 5 people change directions, right? They
Uh-huh.
face a different wall of the elevator than they should be, right? And that sixth person eventually will do the same thing because it's basically the peer pressure experiment. Uh,
Wow. I
and
saw that with people with an experiment that somebody was robbing
yeah,
um, like a restaurant. They were robbing. It was a big guy, bigger than normal.
yeah,
So everyone was an actor, and these two guys who saw that happening, police came and people would talk. Oh, this little guy, blah blah blah, and just like, the little guy. This guy was bigger than the rest. So
yep,
they line them up with the big guy in it, and
yeah,
everybody is pointing on the little guy.
yeah.
And eventually they break and said, well, maybe our perspective was a little bit strange.
Right. What am I wrong? Yeah,
Yeah, am I wrong? So because of the narrative of the rest, you would probably put your own belief system to the side.
yep,
And this is a nice word. I think this is one word that we hear a lot in the community perspective. It is
right.
how you look at things. What is your belief system based on, so that you can dig in and that you can open your mind for some topics that are maybe very controversial to you,
Yeah,
or maybe are t- yeah, to be afraid about the real truth. I think
right.
that's one of the things, right?
Yeah. It is. It is. People, yeah, the truth can be scary. And I'll use a quote from one of our presidents from World War II, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He goes, it's an interesting quote. He goes, only give the people as much truth as they can handle. It's like, yeah, that's about right. We got all sorts of truths that we don't want to tell the people because, well, it's not going to do you any good if we do.
but with that comes also that we live now 2024 already, but
Yeah,
for I think for the last 30 years, especially with the internet, people,
yeah,
well, 40, 50 years ago, there was a teacher and there was a police officer, a mayor, and a doctor in your community,
right.
and they would the guys with the knowledge.
Yeah,
If you were sick, you go to the doctor. If you had a problem with the law or something like that, you go
yep,
to the police, and the teachers are going to tell you how to live and what to do.
sure.
And they were authorities.
Right.
No problem with that. Until we got the internet, and you're going to research some stuff. The funniest, no, not the funniest, the fascinating thing about the people I talk nowadays to on this community, but also on more topics that are very controversial
Yeah,
or conspiracy theories, blah blah blah, are people are willing to really dig into some things. They can't have a PhD for that, or a doctor, or a professor in these kind of topics, but they use their brains and their mind to figure things out, instead of,
yes,
no, this is that, and that is how we're going to be. Okay, let me see what Google says about that. So you dig into Google or in Brave or in whatever, and you have
right.
4 or 5 narratives, 4 or 5 um, outcome, and then you make up your own plausible truth. Hey, wait a minute, I think it's more like this or more like that. But nowadays people tell us, no, no, you can't think for yourself, please do not,
Yeah,
because you're going to be a critical thinker. We don't
yeah,
like that.
yeah. Well, I
But
mean, the fact that YouTube is putting official wiki links underneath certain topics.
I saw that yesterday. I just like, what the,
Yeah. Yeah,
okay.
Flat Earth was the first one they did it to. January 6th,
Hmm.
the insurrection that was done under there. There's at least like a dozen of them now to
Isn't it,
where
sorry, isn't
go
it
ahead.
crazy that all the topics that you try to find that are
Yeah.
not there, that it makes you more curious? Why not? That, for
It
me it
absolutely.
is just like my
Yeah.
dad said, don't smoke because it's very evil. Oh, what's that then?
Yeah.
Don't drink too much because you're going to be drunk. How is it be to be drunk?
Yeah. They probably should have rethought that, which is there's a great quote which is human beings love a mystery. And by default, if you're putting it's like, oh no, that's a conspiracy, you shouldn't look at that. You know, the average person's like, well, as long as nobody's looking, you know, they're
Yeah.
gonna dig into it, sure. And I've had lots of people that are curious about that. As what my co-host Karen, you know, it's if you have to write an article about it, if you have to write articles against it,
Hmm.
chances are there's something else going on.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and that's worked in our favor for a while.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, when you think that somebody is a conspiracy theorist, it's a
Yeah.
conspiracy.
Yeah.
Blows my mind.
Yeah.
You know, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. No, no, that's a conspiracy that your belief system is based on, because I'm just a critical thinker. I just question some things that you don't.
Yeah.
That's a different thing. It's not like, oh, I'm now the new conspiracy guy. No, no, I like to think and talk about topics that other people are not willing to share some information or to think about. And yeah, just like I said, here in the Netherlands, there's a new law, and they say basically, when you bring out some stuff that we don't like or that's not based on the truth,
Yeah.
okay, then it's a conspiracy. So my question is, well, but when I have some facts that your truth isn't the truth and my truth, which is could be considered as a conspiracy, is the
Yeah.
truth, who's debunking who?
Right. Right. Over here we have the media sanctioned conspiracy. So they're not a conspiracy if the media puts their stamp of approval on it. So
Yeah.
it's a scandal. Anything that happens that the media is like, oh no, this we're going to approve this. It's a scandal unless somebody dies, in which case it's a tragedy.
Mm.
And everything else though is a conspiracy, and it drives me nuts. It's like, dude, I could again, the line I throw at people all day long over here is I go, resolve these two statements. Everything on CNN is absolutely true, and everything on Fox News is absolutely true. You can't have both because both sides say the other one's lying. So, and then they say, well, okay, well, Fox News sucks or CNN sucks. I go, go, fine, there is fake news. It's like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, but that doesn't, you know, once you get them, once you crack the door open,
Yeah.
you
Then
can kind of wedge your way in after that.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, Mark,
But yes.
I have 10 questions for my podcast guests always. I'm
Okay,
going to
hit
leave
me.
them for a little bit, probably for the last couple of minutes, because I got
Okay.
some questions from some listeners and from some people around, and I have basically two slides of all no, not this one, but
Okay.
slides of some notifications that are made when I'm listening to the podcast.
Okay.
And I'm just going to ask you some questions a few of my listeners had.
Okay.
So, okay. Oh, and I see on my whiteboard that we didn't cover so many topics that I want to talk about, but we can do probably a part two.
We can do another
Yeah.
one. That's fine.
So, what's your favorite conspiracy except flat Earth?
My favorite conspiracy other than flat Earth would be Roswell.
Okay, I left
Plain,
it there.
plain and simple. Because everybody did everything. There was no plot holes in it. Everything did what human beings would do, which was a ship. I'm not going to say who they were.
Mhm.
Crashed in the farmland. The farmer got mad because he thought it was the Air Force. He goes into town to yell. He calls the cops. The cops call the military. The military goes out there. Military has no idea. The commander of the base is so excited because the war is over. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to be a hero. I got a flying saucer. He tells the press. It takes a couple days for Washington, D.C. to figure it out. And then by then they call the base back. It's like, dude, you are retracting freaking everything. He's going, we do not need this. And right then, the whole flying saucer thing was pulled back. There's a wonderful television movie on it from the 90s called Roswell with Kyle MacLachlan and Martin Sheen. Watch it if you get a chance. It is absolutely brilliant. I love it again because everyone did, and the farmer was paid off. Everyone was paid off, and they told and they used one of the base officers as a patsy and basically made him look bad. It's like, no, it was a weather balloon, and that's how the origin of the whole thing started. It was great. I loved it. I loved the whole how it went down. So no,
Mm.
it's fun for me because it was natural. It felt natural the whole way. It's like, yeah, everyone knew, nobody knew what they had until they did. And by the time they did, they realized, like, oh crap, we told everybody. And
It
so then
was
they had
it
to
was this mystery that everybody were looked at and everybody was having the answers, but the screenplayers didn't knew what happening.
No, it was awesome. Yeah. The players didn't know, and the only guy that knew for sure was the base commander, and he wanted to be a hero twice. It's like, yeah, he goes, I'm sure he was bored. 1940, what was it, 47? A few years after the war.
Mm,
It's like, yeah, and he was so excited. I'm sure the wind was taken out of his sails when Washington called him. And anyway, next one.
mm.
What you got?
Okay. Um, what's your opinion about Rick Dubay because of Eric Dubay? Because
Eric Dubay.
nobody is he vanished or something like
No, no,
that?
no, no. No. In fact, it's the opposite. He's fine. He's doing his thing. Eric and I have never officially talked officially. He got into it a little bit before I did in 2014. His listeners, he's still got he's pushing 200,000 subs on YouTube. You could type
Mm,
in Eric DeBay, you'll find him. His only problem, he's never been to our conferences, he's never been to meetups, or he's never been anything like that. He lives in Thailand. He teaches yoga. The reason he has problems is because he's very anti-Semitic. And because of that, and he mixed it in with flat earth. So he would do
two
notably.
of the extremes
Yeah,
binding
exactly. He'd go
together.
flat earth video, flat earth video. Adolf Hitler's the greatest guy in the world. Flat earth video, flat earth video. It's like, what? What the hell
That's
did
a
you just
yoga
do
guy.
there?
Oh,
And it's not a short video. It's like 4 hours long with Adolf as the thumbnail. And it's like,
wow.
dude, what are you doing? And because of
Oh,
that, no producer would touch him. And
oh.
they called. In fact, I tried to reach out through my stuff and look, the producers told me to tell you, stop it,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
if you
don't do
keep doing
that.
it, they're never going to touch you.
How
And so
about
no, but
sorry,
Eric,
how about Sean Hibbler? I love this guy. He did
Sean
some
Hibbler,
pod.
Sean Hibbler makes wonderful stuff. I like Sean Hibbler. I put Sean Hibbler videos on my channel. Yes, he is an Eric Dubay fan,
Mm.
which is why those two, and which is why Sean still thinks that I work for the government. Okay, great, fantastic. Eric's
Oh
only been
wow, I've been
spreading.
talking to government puppy. Who thought
Yeah,
about that?
exactly. Oh yeah, we're watching you right now. Don't go anywhere after the show is over.
No, no,
Um,
that I
and
was,
don't.
with 3 weeks ago. I was getting a phone call from a Dutch mobile number, and this was this Indian guy talking to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, hello, is it Rob? Yeah. So what do you want? And he said, yeah, we caught you with fraud. So that's fine. He said, look up. You see the helicopter? They're coming for you. I said, bring them on. Bring them on, man. Come on, bring
Nice.
them on.
They don't do that in the States, but that's a good one. I like that
Oh,
one.
I was. It was so funny. So I said to him, please have a lot of success doing that, but makes no
Yeah.
sense.
No,
But Sean is
no,
really making
no.
really good moves, and I
Sean's
love
great.
this guy. He
I
was
like
talking.
Sean.
Sorry,
Go ahead. No, you're good. Go.
he was on Firmamental and also on Flat Earth Files.
Yeah.
I will have him as a guest also. So, Sean, if you're listening, please give me a sign. But I know that my brother Raul from the Firmamental is already doing his job. Same as Snake. Shout out to Snake Turban Head, who's making a lot of my guests possible to talk to and to connect to.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's such a it's really a great journey already. I've been doing this now for 3 months. I have
Nice.
some really interesting guests, and well, I got the creme de la creme when it comes to
Yeah.
conspiracy and from flat Earth. Uh, you, Mark, and David
No,
on
no.
Monday.
Oh, David, you'll have a lot of fun with David. He'll be great.
Oh, I have a lot of fun with a lot of people, and the funny thing is, these are people that are intellectually on the same mind level as I am already. Doesn't make sense if I say that to people out loud because you think, oh, am I the retarded one? Or no, it's like when you lift up the veil of some things, some topics, something happens to your complete system.
Yeah.
You look at the world with different eyes.
You do.
Just like I said, when I look to a movie, I can't look at it. I never
Yeah.
thought these Halo video games like pew, poo, poo. Never was interested in that. Never.
Gotcha.
So I
What else you
have
got?
this. This is a great question from my girl. and she's asking, what about the 24-hour sun in Antarctica? That proves that the Earth is round because it's only circling like that.
Right.
What's your basic thought on that?
Basic thought is there's got to be and thank you, by the way, to her for asking that question, because in my opinion, it is the weakest part of flat Earth. Does it kill it? No, because most people don't get it anyway. Most people don't know three-dimensional thinking. And so,
Mm,
yeah, 24-hour sun in the North Pole, easy to do. 24-hour sun in Antarctica, extremely tough to do unless you have more than one light source, unless something else is going on there that we don't know. Um, do I think it's flat Earth killer? No, not at all. We've got way too many other bullets in the gun for that.
mm,
But the only answer I have is there's another light source going on there, because I have talked to photographers that swear, people I trust for the most part, that swear that there's a 24-hour sun in Antarctica. However, we have people in our community that have watched. In fact, David Weiss will tell you. Ask him that question next week.
mm.
That there's some video footage they're showing gaps in the 24-hour recorded sun, from our stations down there, which are military. So, is there something weird going on down there? Probably, but
I mean,
other than
we
that, I
can't
don't. I
figure it out. So that's
Yeah,
one of the biggest questions, also, right? So
we don't know, and plus Antarctica is off limits. So for me, I don't really care that much,
no, no,
to be
no,
honest.
exactly.
But
And like you
but
said,
thank you for
there are too many other things to debunk the
way
globe.
too many other,
Way too
way too
many.
many other. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I like it. I mean, thank you. I'm glad she's there. She's smart. It's
Oh
good.
yeah, that's yeah. That's one of the things too, because a lot of relationships, because of one of these topics, could break
Oh
because
yeah.
people are on a completely different level, or and I'm very happy. I'm very proud that I have her around, because she's like me, a critical thinker, and we discuss about some things, and we don't always have a answer to our questions, but we still have a dialogue,
Gotcha.
and we still have communication going on, and that's one of the greatest parts. And before we hopped on a podcast, we said to each other, well, basically, I don't have any children, and that gives you a lot of time. And one of the favorite things for me, I'm not aging,
Yeah.
and you
No,
too,
I hear
because
you.
you're just like 32. What was it?
Who?
You.
Me? Yeah. Well, yeah, yeah, exactly.
You
Exactly.
didn't age. You didn't age.
Yeah, you don't age. Well, I mean, not really. Not like other people. Definitely not like other
No,
people.
different, completely
Yeah.
different,
Yeah.
completely different. Okay, we got almost 12 minutes left, so
Okay.
I'm gonna squeeze out full 12 minutes.
Okay.
The one I got. What do you think? Do you believe in? Because you talked a little bit on a topic about the biblical, about the
Yeah.
Genesis. We got a firmament. Is
Yeah.
there a firmament? And so, yeah, what's what's
On the other
after that?
side.
Or yeah, or behind that?
For me, would be an unlimited universe. And I've said this on a couple different things, which is if this world is 99.9% conflict, meaning it doesn't matter how beautiful, how powerful, how rich, how talented you are, there's always something to complain about, right? You're always in a state of conflict. I think that's by design. I think that outside of this place is 99.9% unlimited. You want
Mm.
to call it heaven, Shambhala, Nirvana, whatever it is. I think it's cyclical. I think we spend a short time here and then a long time there, and then we go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, because I'm a big believer in dualism. You can't appreciate one thing without the other. Hot without cold, pain
Oh,
without pleasure, light without darkness, limited versus unlimited. And so I think you can't, heaven means nothing unless you go to a place like this where you're not suffering horribly all the time, but it's like a nagging suffering
mm,
pretty much all the time.
yeah,
Even if you were a monk hovering 3 feet above the ground in a Tibetan monastery, you still have to deal with mortality eventually. Even if you
yeah,
get rid of everything else, conflict will always follow you. There you go.
yeah. Wow, nice one.
Thank you.
Okay, what I'm gonna do, Mark, is I'm gonna put on my 10 fast questions.
Okay.
I think, and then we're gonna wrap it up. And
Okay.
it was a brilliant one.
Well,
Do
thanks.
you hear the rain?
No, I don't.
Oh, I can send you some pictures. It's
Coming
been
down.
raining for 2 weeks now here in the Netherlands, almost constantly, and we're almost drowning. I got some
Oh
fields.
no.
Really, I put up. No, I have this inflatable boat, and maybe I'm gonna blow it up, because eventually I have to row to work or something like that, because it's really.
Let me know. Let me
Yeah,
know.
and next
I'll
week
take a
there's
look
going to
after
be
this.
7 degrees minus. So everything that's now here, we can skate probably on, well, basically on the roads because everything is flooded.
Gotcha.
Okay, so 10 questions for
Okay.
my guests.
Okay.
For my
Hit me.
guest, Mark, what's your favorite color?
My favorite color is officially green. And that's only because people said I look good in green. So, but it was weird because I don't wear green a lot anymore. I wear mostly black.
Because of the
But I
compliments.
used to wear a lot of green. But yeah, that my favorite color is green.
Okay, what's your favorite music?
Ooh, electronica. And by that I mean, yeah, I'm a hard rock. I mean, I split between hard rock. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Iron Maiden and all the. I mean, I love the US Festival from back in the day, which was Heavy Metal Day, which was Quiet Riot and Ozzy Osbourne, the Scorpions, Judas Priest, Van Halen, those guys. Those were great. But I'm also a big electronica guy. So Orbital, I loved a bunch of their albums from the 90s. Lords of Acid, Praga Khan, who did his thing. He's from Belgium. If you're ever into him, Praga Khan he did Pragmatic and but last but not least, I don't want to leave these guys out. You want to listen to a great album? Listen to an album by the band was Massive Attack,
Oh,
and the album was called Mezzanine. And I bring that up because that's the first song that Neo is listening to in his headphones in the first movie, but it is not on the soundtrack because the soundtrack is very heavy metal. You know, it's Rage Against the Machine and Marilyn Manson,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
Deftones and stuff like that. So yeah, there you go.
Wow, and it's, I think it's a very it's a tricky question because music
Oh no,
is
no.
for a lot
Oh
of
no,
people.
I mean,
So you
yeah,
could
no, I
divide
get you.
that
I get you.
to
But I'm
genre and
split.
stuff like that.
If I'm not listening to rock, I'm listening to electronic, and that makes me pretty weird. So
Okay, well, but somehow I love all these weird people here, my fellow
I gotcha.
humans. Okay, what's your favorite film or series?
Ooh, Lord of the Rings.
Mm,
Period. That is when they started shooting that in the late 90s. The greatest year in the history of movies was 1999. You can look that up on IMDb. The second greatest year in movies was 1984. But The Lord of the Rings was the perfect series. And it ended, I think it was, what was it, 2003 was Return of the King. And it
mhm.
won, it swept the Academy Awards. And because of it, I actually, it was the only movie where I actually traveled to another country to see it. So I went to see The Shire in New Zealand because the whole thing was shot in New Zealand.
Yeah,
Most
yeah.
of it was shot in the South Island, but The Shire is in the North Island, and it turns out it's the number one tourist attraction in New Zealand. Period.
Wow, and a beautiful country it should be.
Oh, it's a beautiful country, and it's a wonderful story. So yeah, Lord of the Rings, the trilogy.
Okay, what's your favorite book?
My favorite book is an unpublished works. It was one of the last things Mark Twain ever wrote, called Mysterious Stranger. And it's a fantastic book. It's not even that long, about kids in middle like 15th century, 16th century Europe
Uh-huh.
who meet the devil. And this is Mark Twain writing this, right?
Okay.
Who meet the devil, and he shows them via things he does to the townspeople, different things. He tempts the townspeople, different things, how human nature works. And it is absolutely, and it's just a wonderful. And I know when he wrote that because Mark Twain took a turn for the dark, because you know who he was friends with towards the later years of his life? Nikola Tesla.
Oh, I know that one.
And I'll send you a picture of him, and it's one of the only pictures of him and Tesla together.
Oh,
And it's like, yeah, it was really cool. Albert Einstein also was knew Nikola Tesla. They also went to certain things, but yeah, Mysterious Stranger.
oh, Mark, I 100%. We can talk for hours, and we will skip branches as a squirrel, but we still have something to talk about.
Okay,
100%.
cool.
But because we want to wrap it up. What's your
That's right.
favorite booze or beverage drinks?
Okay. My favorite beverage would be a Bloody Mary. I don't know what they call them. I think it's called oh crap. They call them
No,
something
Bloody
different.
Mary. If you go to Estonia,
Yeah.
go to the Swiss hotel.
Yeah.
There's a Swiss hotel in Estonia. They're two, like They're like the Twin Towers. One is an
Yeah.
office building and one is a hotel, the Swiss
Yeah.
hotel. There's on the 15th floor, there's a Davidoff suite. In a Davidoff suite in a hotel, you can smoke Davidoff cigars.
Nice.
Order there at that bar a Bloody Mary, and you will be astonished. That was
Cool.
my best Bloody Mary ever.
Yeah.
Period.
I and what I love about it is you could make them really plain and really boring, or you can make them so elaborate. And it really the best ones have this wonderful combination of ingredients in them. I've made a bunch over the years, but yeah, Bloody Mary, no question.
Okay. What's your favorite food?
I don't think I have one. If I had to eat, okay, if I had to live on a desert island for a year and only eat one food, it'd probably be some sort of pizza, because
Hmm.
you could do so many different things with pizza.
Oh yeah,
So
that's very diverse. Yeah.
that's about it. Yeah. So however, if it was a last meal, if I was on death row, ice cream.
Ooh,
Yeah.
what kind of clothing you wear the most, or what's your favorite?
Oh, I'm wearing it right now. I'm wearing a pair of Dockers and a Calvin Klein breathable shirt.
Hmm.
That is my favorite color. I've got a bunch of different pairs like this. I'll steal from Albert Einstein, because at one point, he stopped wearing different clothes. He bought like 30 sets of the same suit, and they asked him why. It's like, that way I don't have to make a decision when I wake up in the morning. Just
Oh,
put
that's
it
a
on.
great one. And
I'm
your
I'm
hat, of course.
and well, yeah, I've got various hats. Sometimes I don't wear a hat. That doesn't really make. But I've got a bunch of different hats. But yeah, for me, it's more of a uniform than anything else. I
Hmm.
changed over to this, at least 5, 6 years ago. This is pretty much what I wear. So there
Okay,
you go.
cool.
Yeah.
What's your favorite holiday destination?
Holiday destination. Favorite place I've ever traveled to.
Yeah, but you
Uh,
can pick whatever you want.
Probably Auckland, New Zealand. Auckland was one of those. I did not realize what a green city was when I went there. Where there's no trash on the ground, right? People pick up everything. There's no clutter anywhere. It's
Wow.
almost like a video game city in a way. Where
Hmm.
you walk around video games and everything's just so pristine and nice. No, Auckland, New Zealand. If the United States was wiped out and I was transported in some sort of emergency jet, I'd go, take me to freaking Auckland, even though they
Okay.
drive on the other side of the road and it'd probably crash me. So
Oh yeah, that's because you drive on the left side, right?
yeah, we drive on the wrong side of the road. Yeah.
Yeah, depends on what's your perspective on it.
Yeah, exactly.
What's your favorite quote, Mark?
Treat others better than you treat yourself. That's it.
Wow.
That's the message I give for people to going through life, which was, if you think about it, whatever you're going to do. Now, that does not mean that you should just lay down and let people run over you, of course, respond in kind. But yeah, when it comes to daily life, I'll never do a malicious thing to anybody else since I got into flat earth, because I believe in a creator now. I believe that somebody's watching at all times, that karma is very real.
Hmm.
So yeah, treat others better than you treat yourself. That's
Does
it.
it? And that's a side question. Uh, did flat Earth bring you close to the Bible?
Absolutely did.
Me
Absolutely
too. Me
did.
too.
Because again, if this place was built, then there's a creator. Now, does that mean that creator is, pick your God here, one of the five
Hmm.
major
Hmm.
religions? Not necessarily, but whoever built this place at least is one step closer to knowing God's phone number than us.
100%.
And it's like, and people over here have said that there's been a huge influx of people back into the church in the United States because of flat earth,
Hmm.
because it took them from 95% to 98%. And that little percentage, it's like, yeah, I was really kind of stagnant with the church. No, I'm back in now. And I think a
Wow.
lot of people, kind of like, real quick, kind of like why the astronauts wouldn't put their hand on the Bible and say they went to the moon, because once
Hmm.
then you're rolling the dice. Then you're like, okay, now you're being watched. You still gonna
Yeah.
lie? You still
Yeah.
gonna make that big lie? Which is why I mean, seriously, why would the astronauts treat that Bible like it was radioactive? I know why, because I
Hmm.
wouldn't touch it either. It's like, hell no, I'm not.
Exactly.
No. Yeah. So
Exactly.
there
It
you go.
doesn't make sense other way.
No.
Okay, last question, Mark. And then we perfectly in the 2 hour schedule. Wow.
Okay.
What's your life motto?
My personal life motto, other than treat others better than you treat yourself, if I had to do a second one, which would be learn from mistakes. Meaning, and by that I mean, don't learn just from your mistakes. Learn from everyone's mistakes. Don't be the guy like the kids. You know, like if you ever seen kids that put like a coin in a light socket. I don't know if they do those here, right? You see kids like one kid will do it, right? He'll get shocked, he'll cry. Kid right next to him will pick up that same coin and put it in the freaking socket. It's like, no, no, learn from that guy. It's like there's so many things that I don't do in life because I've watched other people. I mean, seriously, go on to YouTube and type in "fail army."
Yeah,
right?
I just want to bring it up. Phil Army. Yeah.
Yeah, fail army. It's like
if you see that,
you watch enough things, like, yep, that's one thing I'm never gonna do ever. Like, you know, like
when
buy
you
a
do
trampoline.
something, sorry,
Never
when
gonna
you do something stupid and somebody says, "Wait, we're gonna record it," don't.
Yeah. Yeah, don't.
Because you're gonna
No,
fail 100%. You're gonna be on YouTube.
And it helps. It has helped me. It's helped me my entire life. I've learned from not just the things I've done. I observe a lot of stuff. I absorb as much of the world as I can, both the good and the bad. And yeah, I will look for the patterns, which is I look for it's like, oh yeah, it seems like that particular hobby or profession or whatever it is, that is a high risk thing. I don't know if I want, and the penalties are horrible. Therefore, I'm not doing it. So, and look, I've got all my hands and fingers. I'm still plenty fine. So there you go.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Mark, for hopping on this podcast on disorganized production. I hope you enjoyed it.
I did. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I will 100% are going to contact you to do another one, and we skipped branches like a squirrel, as I like to say. But now we have collected some nuts, and we can skip the branches, but we go.
Yeah, I'd be happy to
some
do it.
nuts.
You just let me know when, and I'll be there for you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mark. Have a brilliant for the listeners. Have a brilliant morning, day, or evening, no matter where you are on this beautiful plain planet.
Thank you.
Bye,
everybody.
For all my life, with the devil on my heels. He wasn't always right, and he can't fulfill my dreams. I've been running for all my life, with the devil on my heels. He wasn't always right, and couldn't fulfill my dreams. He's pain in the ass, black as night. God, show me the light and hold me tight. I've been running for all my life, with the devil on my heels. He wasn't always right, and doesn't fulfill my dreams. God, show me the light. Please hold me tight. I've been running for all my life, the devil on my heels. He wasn't always right, and couldn't fulfill my dreams. I've been running for all my life, with the devil on my heels. He wasn't always right, and couldn't fulfill my dreams. He's a pain